Hi, I'm Renee, and you're watching Making Potions Part 9. Um, Welcome and good day to you. Uh, Lots of stuff to talk about. I made really good progress since the last video, and I totally ripped out and re-implemented one of my systems, which is always fun to talk about. But again, starting from the non-technical side of things have been going fairly well, but I've noticed some issues which I probably need to address. I've developed a really terrible habit of sitting on my feet all the time, like with my legs crossed under me. I'm doing it right now. I shouldn't be. And I think it's having a bad effect on my knees. So my knees have been a little more strained than usual. I guess sitting like that for multiple hours, like 10 plus a day, is generally not good for you. So I've been trying to catch myself when I'm doing that and put my feet down, but I generally end up crawling on top of them again. um, Also, in regards to that, I haven't been taking regular breaks for the computer. I just sort of plug in and then spend all day working and then spend part of my day doing other things on the computer. And I'm definitely not giving my eyes enough time to rest. I try to every once in a while when I remember just look off into the distance. I think the recommendation is at least 20 feet away, if not further, which I can do right from my desk. But I also need to get up on my feet more. I don't want to get like blood clots and die or whatnot. But I'm not sure how to encourage myself to do that yet. I actually bought Crypt of the Necrodancer, and I have a DDR pad I can hook up to my computer. So I'm considering just sort of video game breaks, but I haven't really set that up yet. We'll see. That's a potential solution. I should also get outside more. It's a little harder for me to be encouraged to do that because I don't like having to get dressed and put on shoes. um, but I'm sure I should do that. Um, yeah. Anyway, I also need to work better on eating properly. I get really distracted when I'm working and I'll get hungry and I'll be in the middle of something, so I won't stop and make food. And then if I'm hungry for long enough, I stop feeling hungry and forget that I was hungry. And then I go for too long without eating food without noticing. So I've actually lost a few pounds, which I'm rather small, so I probably don't need to be losing pounds. So that's definitely something I need to watch out for. Uh, on the stress level side of things, I've been feeling pretty good, but I occasionally get sort of stressed out when it comes to thinking about crowdfunding or funding in general. It's really intimidating, and it's really intimidating to watch other Kickstarter projects fail, and then other Kickstarter projects get like millions of dollars. I wish, yeah, I've been following the Oatmeal for quite a while, so watching the card game that Matthew Inneman has helped create is really awesome watching it go through the roof. But I'm also a little jealous because I don't think I can get the same amount of popularity for my game as much as I would wish that to be true. So definitely it's a little scary being so invested in this game and having done so much work for it, and then realizing that it might be really difficult to bring it to market without additional funding. Uh, Partially because I would like to not go completely bankrupt, spending all my time working on a game that might not make money when I publish it, and partially because I'm not an artist and I definitely have to pay artists to assist me in making something that's better than the temporary art which you have mostly seen. But I have found at least one artist, so I will talk to you guys a little bit more about her work. Um, yeah, let's actually talk about her work. So I started working with a 2D animator. Her animations are really awesome, and she's done some concept art for me. This is the first piece that she gave me. Look at that, and obviously just rough concept art of costume ideas for the main character, and they're also really freaking awesome. A lot of them don't have quite the persona I was gonna go. Like this is a little too like these these two on the top right are really awesome looking characters, but not quite as rough and tumble as I wanted the main character to be. But she did an amazing job on all these designs. And what's even better is when I provided her with feedback, I got designs more along the lines that I was looking for, which are also really amazing. My favorite's the third in the bottom row. I'm really liking that one. So I can't wait to see where she goes with that. Oh, she also provided me with a sketch of the girl looking younger, a little bit more of a softer face than I was going for, so we had a discussion about that. But I really like her art, so yeah, yay! Then I asked her to make concepts for mushroom monsters, and so she did a little bit of mushroom research here. Awesome mushrooms and more mushrooms. And then little awesome mushroom monsters. And I'm sorry about the cat. Um, I really like all of these. I think it shows amazing things about her creativity, and I definitely couldn't come up with nearly this beautiful array of monster mushroom types. And I also like how there's one that looks like Parasect in there. That's pretty cute. So that's been going really well thus far. However, whoa, sorry. However, she did recommend that I try to find a separate environment artist. Uh, so I've been starting to look into that. I haven't found anyone like locally through recommendations to do environment art, so I put two posts up, one just on the Unity forums and one on Game Dev Classifieds, which is a subreddit. And I've received an overwhelming number of replies, actually. And it's really hard as not a main artist person to look at very few pieces of another person's work and determine if that they could work well as what I'm looking for, especially because it seems that, especially for 2D artists, a lot of their work has been for mobile apps and not for other types of games, which generally have a very narrow set of graphic looks. A lot of them are more child-friendly, bubbly, like art, and that's not what I'm going for. And then on the other side of the problem, I've got a lot of responses where people have only had like illustrations or like beautiful concept art of scenery and other things, but no proof of practical applications of art like that. And I don't know how to pick between them. So I'm gonna have to definitely talk with a bunch of them and see, whose personality would fit best, who's most driven to do things outside of just making specific assets I'm asking for. I'm thinking about it, and it'd be really cool if I could sort of do a rough level design of blocks of a level and then ask an artist to make a each block on their own and pull in their own colliders for it, so you can't run off the screen or whatnot. But you'll see. I will have to talk to people and see if anyone's willing to do that. And if you guys know of any environmental artists who do 2D environmental art and are currently looking for work, please send them my way. I'm going to be reviewing stuff, I think, through the end of Friday, unless I'm having trouble, and I hope I'm not. So there's that. Now, oh my goodness, I have so many fun technical things to share with you guys. So let's start digging into this crazy stuff that I've been doing. I've thought that the first demo level I'm going to do is revolving around a little Miss Muffet who's been cursed and turned into a spider queen, and thus I decided I need spiders, and I just made a spider monster really quickly. Actually, I shouldn't show you this. And because of the spider behaviors, or the monster behaviors, which I had previously created for my chicken and for my blob monster, I was able to put things on the spider monster quite easily. So I pulled out the chicken script into a monster patrol script and a monster movement smooth. Monster movement smooth is when a monster is aggressive and attacking you, and it will just move smoothly towards you, versus the monster movement hop, which is where my blob hops towards you. And with the patrol script, you just put in a radius and it finds something in that radius, walks that way, finds something else in that radius again, and walks to the next point. I made a slight improvement on that, but nothing really worth going over. So anyway, that means the creation of the spider was easy. I pulled in a art asset, I created a prefab, I put the art asset on the prefab, and then I just added stats, melee attack, a collider, rigid body, the patrol script, a loot table, which is not populated, and the movement script for when it's aggressive. And now whenever I want to make a monster, I can do that, and it'll take probably 2 minutes or less to create any new melee attack monster. So I needed to figure out how I wanted these monsters to appear. I decided that I would make a small spider. If you notice, this says it's a small spider, and that they would be swarming spiders. But I didn't think spiders would just sort of chill in swarms around places. I mean, I know they do that in some parts of the world, but I didn't think that would be as cool as having a bunch of spiders coming like crawling out of a cavern towards you. So I needed to make a monster spawner, which I'm hoping is going to be useful uh, for multiple applications. So what I did here was I drew this lovely trunk in paint. See, that's my art. Yeah. Uh, and and I made a monster spawner script. And it's actually a fairly simple script because it just grabs a prefab of a monster, which I give it, and a spawn rate. And let me go into and then a few other variables. But if I go into the code here, code. This is not my code. Was not my code. Give me 1 second. Oh, I feel terrible. No, monitor capture. All right, so as I am going into my code here, there we go. Yeah. Oh, just pretend I'm not behind this. Um, uh, there we go. All right. Now that we can actually see the code here, sorry about that. What this monster spawner script does is when it goes through a list of monsters, which I give it, it decides if they're going to spawn or not. If I have my monster list chances adding up to 100%, it will always spawn a monster. If it is less than 100%, it sometimes might not spawn a monster. I also have a count of monsters which it can spawn. So if I have a count of 5, it will always spawn 5 monsters, even if there isn't a 100% spawn rate. I can change that, but I wanted that to be set. The reason that I added in the ability to spawn monsters at a chance is because I'm trying to make this game kind of procedurally generated, at least in terms of the randomness, especially of monsters, and of other items which you can acquire. And this is definitely one of those ways to do that. I was a little unsure of how to do the spawning chance, but how I did it was I started with the current spawning chance of being 0. I go through the list of the monsters that I have, and I add their chance to spawn to the current spawn chance, and then I check if that value is above the current selection of the random value. Since I use percentages, I have to divide by 100. And then I just spawn the monster and start a coroutine for the spawn rate. My spider monsters spawn very quickly. They only spawn when the girl is within the spawn aggro radius, which is what is being checked for here. And that's it. It's just a very simple monster spawner. So now I'm going to show you that it actually works. Let's go here. Ta-da! All right, so just chilling here. Got my girl, got my chicken wandering around, got some potions on me. And if I walk up to this, oh god, there's spiders and they're everywhere and they're swarming me. So it only spawns 5, and I'm just gonna kill a bunch of them. Ugh. Ow, and myself apparently. Ta-da! So there we go. And now I don't get any more of these monsters spawning from that area. Cool. So, if you look again on this trunk, you can see that anytime I want something to spawn monsters, I can just put a monster spawner on it, say which ones I want to spawn, pull in the prefab for them, and type in a spawn rate. And, oh yes, I have to put a spawn location on the trunk. I could just have made the spawn location the middle of the object, but I figured that I'd often be putting it not directly on it. So, like, if I spawn these spiders in the middle of the trunk, it wouldn't look as good as where they are spawned, which is down a little, so they actually come out of the hole. Then spawn rate is how fast they spawn in seconds, so they spawn every half a second, and the aggro range of when they start spawning and how many to spawn. And yeah, I can spawn anything that I've already made now using this code. So yay, reusable code! Don't make things harder on yourself. So, along those lines, I'm going to reveal my casting blob, who looks surprisingly like my other blobs. I didn't feel like putting in a fake spider for doing this, because I was just testing things. So I've disabled his movement script. He doesn't move around. He shouldn't melee attack, but it doesn't matter. And I've made a new script, which is a monster attack cast script. And this script is cool, and it created a lot of problems for me because it made me decide to redo how effects work, which made me have to redo how potions work. But in the long run, it's all better. Now, I don't think all of you might remember exactly how I implemented potions, but I would have a script on the prefab of the potion, which sort of did a lot of its behavior and then triggered the effects. It had sort of like a trigger on it. So when it's overall potion behavior, its consumable potion behavior, or its normal potion behavior would trigger, it would call onto that script to create the effects at the end of it. And those effects were hard-coded into that script, like words hard-coded in. And that has been changed. And the reason it's been changed is because I wanted to just be able to drag in the prefabs of different effects. And so I had to sort of rework how effects work, so they're now their own standalone prefabs versus just behavior script, which was what they were before. And they work like this. So the monster will have a cast point on it. This means if it's casting from its finger, it'll cast from its finger. It's casting from its mouth, it will cast from its mouth. Spawn points, really, really useful, as you can tell. There's a prefab, which is what the spell looks like while it's in motion. So that means if I want to have spells that look the same but act differently, it's really easy to do that. I can just use the same prefab. I have a projectile speed, how fast it moves, the max distance, so it might try to shoot at you, but you're too far away, and a cooldown. So it means it'll only cast that often. I believe that if you check the stats on my monster, you'll find that its aggro range is larger than the max distance it can cast. So that means if you are 10 away from it, it will still cast at you, but it can't hit you. And if you are further away, it won't cast at you at all. Let's just see what this looks like before I go into how the effects work now. So, cast at me, and it just has a knockback effect. So it does no damage, but every 5 seconds, it casts at me. And that took a lot of bug fixing. But, so now I can have an effects list and put on however many effect elements I want, 12 or 1. I can have multiples of the same if I wanted to for unknown reasons. And initially I was just putting on one prefab, but the thing was I was putting on a prefab and then wanting to set values on that prefab, such as the radius of it, perhaps the force on this explosion, and that doesn't work because you can't have prefabs setting prefabs values easily, unless you assign it in the script, which is kind of what I do here. So in order to have this work for all sorts of effects, I determined that the 3 elements any effect will likely take in is the strength of the effect, the duration of the effect, and the radius of the effect. And I couldn't think of any effects that I wanted to use that would take in more than those 3 values. So this explosion is of the most complicated I expect any of my effects to be. There's a lot of effects which will not take in anything, like perhaps a damage effect won't have a duration because it just damages instantly things which are around it. This also allows me to put in just an effect which is graphical only and disappears after a certain amount of time, like this explosion disappears after a certain amount of time, without affecting anything else, just being graphical. And it'll allow anyone to build these really fast. So I can say, oh, I want this to look like this and last for this long and do these effects. And done. So let's look at this code briefly. And you'll see here, it does a bunch of checks when it's updating, just basically seeing if it should be casting or not, if it's not on cooldown, if it's being aggressive, and if the girl is within range and not dead. Or it'll cast at her dead body and slowly just bump it across the screen. It finds the direction of the girl. It instantiates a spell, which is the projectile, and it sends that off. Now, what I had to do with this spell was I decided to treat it like a potion, but like a projectile potion, but which just goes straight. So you'll find, if I show you the code for that, it acts almost exactly like the potion does, only it goes straight, and it will either smack into it and explode or meet its max range and explode. It is possible that I will create a third type of projectile spell, which will work very similarly, but may not explode or may not trigger at the end, may only work if you hit something with it. That's for future Renee to figure out if I need that. Then I just take that spell, which I've instantiated, which is a projectile, and put these values on it for its speed, max distance, and effects. Yeah, so that's how I set them. I create it, and then I put those in there. Then the spell itself, which I will go to my projectile behavior script. If you notice, it is a base potion, so it's going to be using a lot of things of the potion type. And it's going to have an effects list, which it is populated from, well, previously, from the cast. It finds the girl, shoots at it, moves things, and then has an effect trigger, which goes through each effect and instantiates them, and sets their strengths and durations and radius as it should, and then starts the effect again as it's triggering them. And then it destroys itself later. Yay! Um, so like this potion 1 and 2 had sort of that effect trigger on them, but instead I'm not using them like this, and I'm using them in the base part. And then effects look fairly similar, pretty much the same. They have a starter effect, which is started by the base effect instantiation. No, it's the start effect, whatever. I guess I just messed up on the name. And then goes through the radius ones, find everything in a overlap circle around them, and start their effect and go through all of their beautiful timers before destroying themselves or whatnot. So yay, that works. This means I had to change how effects were on potions, and they act the exact same way. So if I go here to one of my potions, you'll see now I have a effects list on them with these various strengths. And I will show you that they work by battling with this thing. Rawr! I beat up disabled monsters. There you go. Oh, yeah, I'm one little short. No! No! Leave me alone! Well, that was a bug. Alright. Obviously, things aren't perfect yet. Oh, you know what? This monster doesn't have a death on it. That's why it's not dying. My bad. Test monster. Shh. Invisible. Cool. So, and obviously, the heal consumption works as well, which I will show you. And as the heal doesn't have a radius and it doesn't have a duration, it just has a strength. Bam, bam. Drink your potion, heal yourself. No problem. So that was that re-implementation of effects and how potions work actually took like 2.5 days of my week last week. And then most of it else of it was spent doing research on artists and on how I should do this. Now, the last thing that I tried to implement is a spider web, because what I want that projectile to create is a area of effect which will slow you while you're in it. This will last forever. I'll just turn it on here. This is my slow effect. And I was debating on how to do this. I wasn't sure. Right now it cuts your speed in half when you enter it, and when you exit it, it's supposed to clear it. And also when its duration comes up, it's supposed to clear these effects. It sort of makes a list of things which it is slowing. Notice the chicken got slowed when he went through there as well. This spider should be slowed. It ignores you if you're sprinting, which is kind of nice. I figured since you're flying over the effects, it shouldn't affect you. But the problem is I wasn't getting Unity to properly recognize and clear, like reset your stats. I changed the stats on everyone, all my monsters, to have a max speed, a current max speed, a pat speed, and a current pat speed. It all starts at 0, and then upon their start, it changes it to the current. And that just wasn't working well. And I was talking with one of my friends, almost advisors, I'd say, and he recommended that I create a buff class, which I can use for buffs and debuffs. And it sounded like a really good idea. So I'm going to see about doing that. He had recommendations on how to deal with durations and tricks to calculating multiple effects affecting the same stat. So hopefully next week when I talk to you, I will have that implemented, and then whenever I want to make anything, I can basically drag in, like, all right, it's a monster, it's going to pat like this, it's going to move smooth, and it's going to cast these spells at you, and then all I'm going to have to make are some effects and art, and things will just chug along and be magically created super quickly. So that's the goal, and it's really exciting to be getting this far and seeing sort of all the puzzle pieces falling into place as the game itself becomes easier and easier to make. So, cool. Reusable things are awesome. See, look, I'm staying on my feet again. It just happened. As always, thank you so much for your time. I hope that you will continue watching. I hope that this video was informational uh, for you and that you've learned amazing things and it'll help you be a better game developer or just sates your curiosity on what we do. So, thanks again. Catch you later.